You're listening to the Team Guru podcast, bringing to life the theory and principles of leadership.
Hello, my name's David Frizzell, and this episode of the Team Guru podcast is another in a series that I've done in conjunction with WIMARQ, or Women in Mining and Resources Queensland, is a group that works to support and promote women across all areas of the primary resources industry. I'm proud to have been associated with them for a little while now. In episode 76, I spoke with Tim Crossley, former Chief Operating Officer of BHP, live from a WIMARQ event. And back in episode 57, I spoke with Jenny Purdy, a long-time WIMARQ member who is currently the CEO of Adani's renewables operation in Australia. And in this episode, I speak with the 2018 winner of WIMARQ's Exceptional Women in Mining Award, Jo-Anne Dudley. Jo-Anne has been working in the resource sector for 25 years, and like so many, she began her career as a mining engineer. Jo-Anne has worked in FIFO roles. She spent years of her life underground. She's been the only woman working on site. She's survived not one but two near fatal workplace accidents, and the list goes on in what has been a colourful and energetic career. Jo-Anne shares with me some of the stories that have given her career that colour, and she reflects thoughtfully on the role of women in the mining industry, her experiences as a trailblazer, and the revolution of the safety culture. She also talks about the powerful role that mentoring can play in the lives and careers of the next generation. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jo-Anne Dudley. Jo-Anne Dudley, welcome to the Team Guru podcast.
Thank you very much.
Jo-Anne, you are the WIMARQ Exceptional Woman in Mining for 2018. Congratulations for a start, but tell us about that. What does it mean to you to be recognised by your peers in your industry, and what does that award suggest? What does it symbolise?
Well, it's a great question actually, because I was convinced to apply by a close friend and colleague. And at the time I thought, well, it's a bit of a brag really to try and put yourself forward for an award like this. But since I won the award, I've found it's a great vehicle for whatever cause I would like to raise. And of course that cause is trying to get more women into the mining industry and into STEM careers. And so I've been able to use that as a bit of an intro and a license to operate, if you like. So I've found it to be, so far, really valuable for me because I am passionate about those things.
I've read a few things about you. I've read some speeches that you've delivered, and there's some really strong themes that come out from all of that, that you clearly are at the point in your career where you've worked out what you're passionate about, what you care about. You've had time to ponder the things that you've experienced and extract what's important and what you want to give back to. And we'll talk about those things. And those things clearly are about women in mining, a bit of gender equality and gender awareness. You're very passionate about mentoring and making sure that we're developing the next generation of leaders, which is what leadership is all about when it comes down to it. And the other thing I get from reading about you is safety. Is something that you've experienced both sides of. You've had some pretty horrendous experiences when it comes to safety. You've stood up to that ethically, and you are now a voice for safety on mine sites. So we'll get to all of that. But before we get there, let's just give the listeners a little bit of an idea of the shape your career has taken. You're the classic, started with a very solid technical skill. You're a mining engineer. You worked in that for a long time, and then now you have progressed through various leadership roles. Take us way back. I think it was 1994 when you graduated from uni.
Yes.
How's my memory going? See, I'm not looking
work.
at notes, am I?
Good work.
1994, and you started working in underground mines. I want to hear all about that. I've never set foot in an underground mine. I have spent a lot of time on mine sites, but never gone underground. I suppose they don't take a lot of visiting consultants into the underground space. So I want to hear about what it's really like to work underground. Secondly, I want you to paint for us a picture of the landscape in 1994. I believe you were the first or the second woman in Queensland to be allowed to work underground.
Well, certainly I was, so I actually was qualified for a mine manager's ticket as one of the very first in New South Wales. But yes, absolutely, there weren't many women working underground. In New South Wales, it was only legal for women to work underground the year I started university, But I had no idea of that. I guess I came into university really pretty ignorant about what might face us, the young women who started at that time, in terms of gender diversity. And, I'd grown up in a family with only brothers, and I was treated equally in my family. So it didn't really occur to me that the world could be any other way.
So you were starting a degree at a time when, if things didn't change, you would finish your degree and be really limited as to what you could practice on site because of the current rules. They happen to change.
Yes, that's
but you
right.
started in that environment.
Absolutely. And I guess there were other parts of the environment that go to your question about underground mining and how I ended up in underground mining, because, it's very common in engineering degrees to have to get work experience during your degree. So while I was at university, I worked at an underground magnetite mine, which was a very small mine just up the road here in Biggenden. And it was a wonderful experience. It was more like a family than anything else. And, the men I worked with were really generous with their time. And so they taught me how to operate equipment and really treated me like the younger daughter or sister, and it was a wonderful experience. And then the next period of work was in a large open cut coal mine in the Bowen Basin. And at the time, it was really culturally split between the unions and the non-union. And, there were different coloured hard hats worn. If you're a union, it was one. If you're a staff, it was another. And, so the whole workforce was divided. And then I went into the next period of work, and it was another underground mine, and it was up near Mount Isa. And that was a very formative experience. We were thrown on shift, and we were the first women the men had ever worked with, and there was a woman on each shift from university. And we had to do what the men did. And, at first I thought it might break me, and, I'd lie in my bunk after work and think, do I want to move and have dinner, or should I just go to sleep,
Rest my weary body.
That's right. But at the end of that time, when it came to making a decision about where I wanted to work, I felt that culturally I'd been treated more fairly and more inclusively in the underground environment. And so ultimately I think it was that culture that really made me seek the underground world rather than the surface world.
Really?
So in some ways a bit of an accident of where I worked. And so, that was just because I think where I worked didn't have divisions in the workplace. I mean, I gave the example of unions, but it's not necessarily a union that might cause that division, but in that case it was. So I ended up in underground mining, and really it was the culture that got me there and kept me there. And I really feel that there's a closeness at work at the moment. We've got people who haven't got an underground background coming into teams where we have people with underground backgrounds, and they talk about there's a barrier to entry. So trying to get into that underground, you might call it a clique, or be respected by the underground experienced people is difficult for them. But I guess what I would say is once you're in,